Beneath the biting chill of late-year winter, James's small farm had become not only the place where he pursued his agricultural dream, but also a sanctuary for Deep, a poor girl who had once endured a life of slavery under Powell. As their love deepened, Deep found herself wrestling with deep insecurities about her humble origins and painful past, while James's gentle nature and Lynn's compassionate support became her fragile anchors. In episode 26, we learn whether Deep can overcome the darkness inside her to embrace love, or if the gap between rich and poor will forever stand as an insurmountable barrier. Early that morning at James's farm in Tan Min Village, the December cold spread across the fields, and a thick fog blanketed the rows of lush grapefruit trees that Deep tended daily. The heavy mist, like a pale, blurry curtain, obscured even the distant trees, leaving only their faint silhouettes in the weak light. With temperatures hovering around 3°C, the bone-chilling cold seeped through her patched-up thin jacket. Every gust felt like tiny needles pricking her skin. Her cracked, trembling hands clutched the knife as she carefully pruned each heavy grapefruit from its branch. Proof of endless days of hard labor etched into the calluses on her hands. Dewdrops shimmered on the fruit like tiny jewels in the soft dawn light. Yet the cold still made her shiver. Her bare feet, protected only by worn-out rubber sandals, scraped against the damp earth with faint squeaky sounds amid the quiet, punctuated only by the whistling wind through the trees and the distant, gentle chirps of sparrows. Deep gazed out over the endless rows of uniformly plump, golden grapefruit, a testament to countless hours spent watering, weeding, and fertilizing with her fragile hands. In that moment, pride warred with a deep-rooted insecurity. A poor girl who had once been sold into slavery to the Powell family when she was just 12, who had lived in the shadows of humiliation and pain. This is James's farm, she thought, her heart warming as she remembered the man who had rescued her from the darkness under Powell, the cruel husband who tormented her for 5 long years, bellowing in drunken fury, "You're only fit to be a beast of burden. What's the use of learning?" Tearing apart the old notebook she'd salvaged from a trash heap, his fists falling like relentless rain, and the cutting words of Mrs. May, his mother, slicing into her pride. "Useless. If you can't bear children, then get out." Clenching her knife, Deep silent tears fell to the ground and merged with the cold dew, while her cracked lips whispered in silence, "I've accepted James's love, but am I really worthy? A girl like me, poor, divorced, and once cast aside, can I truly stand by him?" With that, she bowed her head and continued pruning, each swing of her knife a quiet vow to do her best despite the heavy burden of her past. A few miles away, in the modest rental house James kept in Tan Min Village, he awoke early as soft light filtered through the gaps in the wooden window, highlighting the passionate spark and quiet contemplation in his eyes as he thought of Deep. The humble home, with its cracked earthen walls and streaks of green moss clinging to its corners as if telling tales of days gone by, carried the faint scent of moist soil from the fields, mingled with the aroma of dry wood from its thatched roof. Yet the space was warmed by the small, steady glow of a wood stove in one corner, its red flame dancing on the walls and offering a touch of comfort against the harsh winter cold. Dressed in his heavy grey coat, still dusted with farm soil, and in well-worn leather shoes stained with red earth, James stepped out into the small yard. He stood silently, gazing toward the field where Deep was at work. Each breath he exhaled turned to white mist in the frigid air, and a note of concern tugged at him. Is she coping in this bitter cold? Are her hands so delicate, enduring too much? He fished his phone from his pocket, about to call Tuan, his longtime friend and woodshop manager, to discuss his new short-term food project. But his fingers paused as his thoughts drifted to Dieppe, the small, resilient girl who had unexpectedly entered his life. Since the day he met her at the Tan Min commune office, when she tearfully pleaded for help after being cast out by Powell, her face streaked with tears yet burning with determination, he had been captivated by her gentle strength. In his mind, he reassured himself, quietly but firmly. Deep is unlike anyone else. She's far stronger than she believes, even if she doesn't yet see it. Determined, he turned to his desk where his ledgers and plans lay, vowing to visit her as soon as his work was done, bringing with him the warmth needed to melt away the winter chill that enveloped her. Later, on the way to the town market, Deep fastened her basket of grapefruit onto her old bicycle and pedaled vigorously along the rough, winding dirt road. The small pebbles clattered beneath her wheels in a dry, rhythmic cadence, mingling with the howling wind that whipped through the trees and carried the brutal cold that made her hair fly wild and stick to her gaunt face. The icy gusts numbed her hands, the cracks in her skin stinging as if pricked by countless tiny needles with every blast of wind through her tattered jacket. Yet she pressed on, her gaze fixed ahead, where the soft glow of the central market emerged through the thick fog, a hazy beacon amid the vast countryside. The dusty red road stretched out before her, marked by the imprints of old tire tracks, and bordered on both sides by dew-clad rows of lush vegetables, while in the distance, the faint outlines of humble houses in Tan Minh appeared, like a living portrait of simple, vibrant country life. The bustling market, alive with the excitement of the year's end, featured stalls draped in shimmering sequin strings, under weak sunlight with flashes of red, yellow and blue dancing in the breeze, each hue carrying the promise of a hopeful new year. Laughter and cheerful voices blended with the calls of street vendors. "Who wants a ban chung?" and the steady rhythm of footsteps on red clay, all punctuated by the creaks of old pickup trucks slowly hauling goods. Parking her bike beneath an ancient banyan tree with a sprawling canopy, Deep carefully set her grapefruit basket down. The moist earth still clinging to the fallen fruit stained her worn sandals as she softly asked a nearby vendor, "Excuse me, may I sell my grapefruit here?" A kindly middle-aged woman with warm brown eyes, busy tying a bundle of water spinach with a strip of cloth, looked up and smiled. "Of course, you're welcome. This place is always lively." Deep nodded gratefully and arranged her grapefruit on a faded, frayed tarp. The fresh, citrusy aroma mingled with the red earth, and a faint smoky hint from a nearby stall roasting ban, drawing curious glances from passers-by. An elderly woman, her voice rasping with age as she examined an ear of grapefruit, asked, "How much for these?" 20,000 dong apiece, Deep replied softly, her voice steady despite the chill that tightened her throat, each breath puffing out as a thin mist in the cold air. The woman selected 2 fruits, rummaging in her worn cloth bag to produce crumpled bills, then smiled warmly, revealing a few missing teeth. "These are lovely, so sweet. You clearly take great care of them." Deep accepted the money with trembling, cold hands, smoothing the crinkled banknotes carefully into her bag. In that moment, a tender warmth blossomed in her heart as she thought of James, the man who had transformed her life with his gentle patience, who had held her hand when she thought she would collapse, who had taught her that she was valuable despite a past full of scars, yet a fragile insecurity stirred within her like a cold draft. "I'm so poor, once abandoned and humiliated by Pao. Am I truly good enough for him?" Later that day, James left his rental and drove his old car along the bumpy dirt road to the town market. With each jolt from potholes and every bump that rattled his frame, worry crept into his mind as he thought of Deep, the small, determined girl who had captured his heart. He wondered if she was dressed warmly enough today, if her delicate hands were enduring the cold. Clutching the steering wheel tightly, his eyes scanned the roadside rows of vegetables, where dew still clung to the leaves like tiny jewels, and he recalled the sparkle in Diep's eyes when she smiled, a rare, radiant smile that made his heart skip a beat. The car stopped near the bustling market and James stepped out, his well-worn leather shoes pressing on the damp ground. He wandered among the lively stalls filled with laughter, the sweet aroma of fresh grapefruit and crisp greens, and the scent of steaming banchong mingling in the cool air. Memories of childhood Tet celebrations with his gentle mother, the woman who taught him the value of hard work, who had once held his hand and shown him how to sow seeds on their little field, flooded back as he scanned the crowd for Diep's familiar figure. From afar he saw her, slender and resolute, seated beside her basket of grapefruit, her hands trembling as she handed a piece of fruit to a customer, the thin fabric of her shirt fluttering in the cold breeze. His heart ached as he approached gently, his voice warm amid the market's clamor. "Diep, what are you doing?" Her eyes lit up like rays of sunlight piercing a thick fog as she looked up, replying in a soft, inviting tone. "Hello, James. I'm selling grapefruit. How are you today?" James sat beside her on the worn tarp, his gaze lingering on her scarred yet graceful hands, the red, tender cracks exposed by the cold, and his heart filled with concern. "I just finished my work and thought I'd come see you. Your hands, they look so cold. Are you okay?" Deep managed a small smile, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm fine. It's just a small scrape from picking the fruit. I'm used to it." Taking her hand in his, James's warm grip radiated comfort as he said, "Your hands are too precious. They deserve better. Are you free this afternoon?" Deep nodded, her eyes sparkling with a mix of gratitude and uncertainty. "Yes, I am." James smiled, his gentle expression lighting up his face amid the market's bustle. Then come with me, I want to take you shopping for a few things. You deserve to be warm in this cold weather. Together they left the market. James led Deep to a small, unassuming store on a dusty side street where practical essentials were sold. The modest shop, with its low tin roof and the soft glow of a round bulb filtering through a foggy window, housed wooden shelves stocked with scarves, gloves, and cozy hats in a variety of colors. James entered and carefully selected a soft, light-through scarf, a pair of warm grey woolen gloves, and a snug hat with a tassel. In a gentle tone, he said, "Try these on. In this bitter cold, you shouldn't let your hands suffer." Deep hesitated, her eyes reflecting a quiet worry. "I'm not sure. I don't want to spend too much." Patiently, James placed the scarf in her hand. "It's no expense when it comes to keeping you warm. Just try it." She wrapped the scarf around her neck. The soft wool against her skin sent a comforting warmth that made her shiver with relief, yet stirred her lingering self-doubt. "He's so kind. Am I really worthy of him?" James smiled warmly. "You look wonderful." Blushing softly, Deep murmured, "Thank you, James. I don't know what to say." James squeezed her hand, the warmth of his touch enveloping her. "You don't have to say anything. I just want you to be happy." That evening, back at her small rented wooden home, the flicker of an oil lamp illuminated Deep's delicate, tired features as she sat by a worn table with the old book James had given her. Haki, her little dog, lay quietly at her feet, his soulful eyes offering silent comfort as his tail thumped gently. As she read the simple words, plant, flower, water, her thoughts drifted to James, the man who had shown her that she was valuable despite a past full of pain. Memories of Powell's brutal words and merciless beatings, of the day she was cast out with nothing but her broken pride, and Haki trailing behind, surged unbidden. In a hushed tone she whispered to herself, "I've accepted his love. But am I truly worthy?" Lying there, Deep recalled a tender phone call from Lynn, James's devoted secretary, whose gentle words had reassured her. "Don't be insecure. James loves you for who you are, not for your wealth." Though comforted by Lynn's kind encouragement, a fragile uncertainty still lingered. Could she ever truly leave her painful past behind? Meanwhile, at his modest rental, James sat at a battered wooden desk under the warm glow of a yellow lamp, his thoughtful face reflecting on the wall like a quiet portrait. His mind was filled with concern for Diep. He knew her heart was burdened by insecurity, and he resolved to help her believe in their love. He picked up his phone and called Lynn's. "Have you spoken with Diep today?" Lynn replied gently. "Yes, I saw her yesterday. She's wonderful, but still weighed down by her past and her feelings of inadequacy." James nodded. "Thank you. I promise I'll do everything I can to help her overcome this." He ended the call and gazed out into the dark night, his resolve firm. "No matter what challenges come, I'll never let Diep face them alone." But then came unexpected news. James's father abruptly announced his decision to oppose Diep, plunging her into fresh pain. James, confused and heartbroken, desperately searched for her. Yet could their love be strong enough to withstand such powerful opposition? Stay tuned for episode 27 to find out if their love can rise above the burdens of wealth, past pain, and family prejudice.
Diệp nhận ra mình yêu Seo Yang, nhưng liệu họ có còn cơ hội yêu nhau không? Dưới bầu trời xám xịt của một buổi sáng mùa đông, vùng nông thôn Việt Nam chìm trong cái lạnh buốt thấu xương. Những cơn gió heo mây thổi qua cánh đồng mang theo hơi thở của đất trời, và tất cả những nỗi niềm chưa thể nói thành lời của Tử Diệp. Sau ngày cô từ chối tình cảm của Jam, người đàn ông đã kéo cô ra khỏi bóng tối quá khứ. Trái tim cô rơi vào những khoảng trống không tên, như khi ánh sáng ban mai đè nhẹ đổ xuống. Một sự thật dần hé lộ trong cô. Cô yêu anh dù nỗi tự ti vẫn như một sợi dây vô hình trói chặt cô lại. Liệu tình yêu ấy có đủ sức vượt qua những rào cản của số phận, hay chỉ là một giấc mơ ngắn ngủi tan biến giữa thực tại khắc nghiệt? Hành trình trong tập này sẽ mang đến câu trả lời đầy bất ngờ và dây dứt. Buổi sáng tại trang trại nhỏ, Diệp thức dậy Sớm hơn thường lệ, cô đứng bên khung cửa sổ cũ kỹ, nhìn ra khu vườn rau xanh mướt đầy dần nảy mầm, lòng chợt dần lên cả